all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Katie Glenn.
Present.
Amanda Miller. Josh Fedor.
Present.
Jim Hurst.
Present.
Josh Martin.
Present.
4 present. We have a quorum.
Okay, and before I jump into the agenda, I see a number of people in the audience. If you wish to speak tonight, we ask that you sign up. If you haven't signed up, I can make these papers available to you again, but if you would please do so here in the next few moments. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the April 6th meeting minutes. Any changes to the minutes, or can I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There are no continuance or withdrawal requests. There is no continued business. So we are on to new business. I will call docket 2020-604 DSV Development Standard Variance pursuant to Exhibit 5 Development Standards Matrix to encroach into the rear yard setback for the construction of a patio on Lot V4 in Section 9 of the Holiday Farms PUD. Mr. Smith, are you taking this?
Yes, sir. So yeah, you summarized the project. This is in the Holiday Farms PUD. The petitioner, on this particular lot, there is a 50-foot rear yard platted building line, which is unique. The petitioner is requesting, if you look at the site plan, he is requesting to encroach 3 feet into the 50-foot building setback line. It's 3 foot by 22 feet, which is a total of 66 square feet. If the petitioner wishes to move forward with his project, the variance either needs to be granted or he'll have to remove that portion of his patio. And I've provided on page 4 of the staff report, you can see 2 pictures. One is the recorded plat. I've highlighted, you'll see the 50-foot building setback line. And you'll note the second picture is the site plan that was submitted, and you'll see the patio as it relates to that 50-foot setback line, the 3-foot encroachment, the 22 feet in width. The standards for unnecessary for the granting of a development standard variance, there's 3 standards. 1, the grant will not be injurious to public health and safety. 2, the granting of this request will not have an adverse impact in the use or value of adjacent properties. And 3, strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. Just to read staff's position for the record, item 1, the grant will not be injurious to public health and safety. Staff, we agree with the petitioner, except for the rear yard setback. The proposal meets all other applicable development standards, and it still provides a 47 rear yard setback, which is significantly larger than all other residential rear yard setback requirements in our zoning ordinance. It does not encroach into the 30-foot or 35-foot drainage easement or the 15-foot green belt, and you can see that on the again on page 4 of the recorded plat. Additionally, as part of the approval process, the petitioner is required to receive approval of what we call an ILP, an improvement location permit from the town, and approval from their HOA prior to construction, both of which are intended to ensure the project is not injurious to public health and safety. Public noticing was also completed, and at the time of this writing, we were not aware and did not receive any concerns or complaints from the public. So for this reason, or for these reasons, we believe this criteria was met. Item number 2, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property included in this variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Once again, staff agrees with the petitioner. If the request is granted, the petitioner is still maintaining a 47-foot rear yard setback, again, significantly larger than all other residential zoning classifications in our zoning ordinance. We believe this patio adds value to the site. Adjoining properties are not anticipated to be adversely impacted. Additionally, surrounding properties, again, were notified. Staff, as of this writing, has not received any concerns from neighbors or the public, so barring objections being raised during the public hearing, we believe this criterion was met as well. The final one, strict application, item number 3, strict application of the zoning ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship in the use of the property. As staff, we disagree with the petitioner on this criteria. We define unnecessary hardship as the following. All relevant factors, when taken together, indicate that the land involved cannot yield a reasonable return because of unique circumstances. A claim of unnecessary hardship justifying the grant of a variance cannot be based on self-created conditions. A mere showing of economic loss is not sufficient. Summarizing, in this case, we believe the subject property already yields a reasonable return, supporting a 5,444 square foot residence. In staff's opinion, the desire for additional outdoor space does not rise to unnecessary hardship. We could not identify unique circumstances or conditions on this site, such as an easement or the topography of the land, that would support granting a variance. Additionally, the secondary plat for Section 9 of Holiday Farms was recorded in September 2023. The owner did have access to this information prior to purchasing the property and designing their home. Despite having access to this information, they moved forward with the current proposal, ultimately building the patio without a permit and encroaching 3 feet over the building line. In staff's opinion, this is a self-created hardship. For these reasons, we believe this criterion was not met. Summarizing, you have to answer in the affirmative all 3. We could not get there on item number 3. So based on that, we have an unfavorable staff recommendation of the requested variance to encroach 3 feet into the 50-foot rear yard setback for the patio. We've provided a sample motion at the last page of the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Members of the BZA, do you have any questions for staff?
Not at this time, I don't know.
Okay, I would invite the petitioner to approach the podium, state your name and your address.
Yeah, I'm Pete Gray. I'm owner of Executive Homes, 1010 3rd Avenue Southwest in Carmel is our address. Appreciate your time today. I'm kind of new at this. The last time I did one of these things was for a barn I was building in Carmel, and that's been 25 years ago. So I spent a little bit of time. I understood that there was a similar request for an encroachment that was presented to this board in January. So I kind of followed the, kind of the guideline and criteria that they went through. And first of all, the gentleman was very complimentary of Jonathan and his help, and I will continue to, I'll go along with that as well. Very helpful. I appreciate all the assistance. But I guess from the standpoint, the best I can do is kind of compare what was approved in January with what I'm hoping to get approved this evening and see if we can go along with that. But so as Jonathan mentioned, we have a 50-foot rear building setback line on that property, which that setback isn't even listed in the document with the PUD. The biggest setback line they even reference is a 30-foot building setback line. So it's a pretty extraordinary setback line to begin with. And I'm requesting a 3-foot encroachment into that 50-foot BSL. And as a kind of a comparison, the one that was approved back in January, they were requesting a 10-foot encroachment that would take that really all the way back to the 20-foot building setback line. So relatively insignificant amount in comparison anyway. Both properties are unique in that neither one of them back up to any home sites. So I back up to a property to the north that's not developed, and this backed up to commercial space. So one of the considerations at that approval was that it did not back up to another home. I'm requesting a 3-foot encroachment with 66 square feet of patio encroaching. The one that was approved back in January was a 295 square foot patio with 10-foot encroachment. So again, significantly less of an encroachment than was previously approved. And I'll retain another 12 feet between even this, with this 3-foot encroachment. I'm still 12 feet away from a 35-foot drainage easement. And the other one that was approved was adjacent to and on top of a 20-foot drainage and utility easement. So again, a little bit more space. And I thought it was interesting, both requests, my client's Brazilian, they have some pretty unique cooking requirements, and the gentleman that got approved also had some cultural requirements that they do a lot of outdoor cooking to, in their, at least they prefer doing it that way. But and then, as Jonathan mentioned, that both of those projects had building setback lines that exceed Zionsville's typical requirement. I think that's 20 feet. The one that was approved in January had a 30-foot BSL, and mine's a 50-foot BSL, so we're well within what Zionsville typically looks for. And then I was going to make a comment. That house, the footprint of that house is 2,841 square feet. It's a relatively small 3-bedroom ranch with a partially finished basement. And the footprint of that house is literally within 1.5 inches of the maximum width I could build on that lot, and 1.5 inches of the maximum depth I could build on that lot. And so what's remaining is a small, I'm going to call it offset in that building that's on the northeast corner, which, obviously when you're that close to all those property lines, there's not a whole lot left to work with. So the grilling area is kind of tucked into a corner of the home that's created on the northeast side. So, but again, I'm border to border. I'm within 1.5 inches each direction of the maximum footprint I could build on that, both front to back and side to side. And then, as Jonathan mentioned, building, the standards 1 and 2 are fairly easy to meet. It's, standard number 3, the unnecessary hardship standard. I think it's kind of hard to argue that anyone who lives in Holiday Farms has very many unnecessary hardships. That's a beautiful community, and there's not a whole lot of unnecessary hardship you see as you go through there. But anyway, it's one of those things. I have a letter, I think, Jonathan, I sent a copy to him. I have a letter from Hankey Development encouraging you to approve the 3-foot encroachment. And I guess that's what I'm asking for this evening.
Thank you. Before I invite questions from my fellow commission members, I'll just note that each zoning appeal stands on its own.
Of course, I understand that.
And so just want to put that on the
No,
record.
I'm kind of new at this, so I knew that one was approved, so I just kind of followed the template.
Well,
so to
I
speak.
understand your thinking,
Yep,
but
yep.
just so
No, I
that you and everyone know.
fully
we
understand.
look each one of these
Yep,
individually.
fully understood.
Do we have any questions for the petitioner at this time?
Has the patio already been built, or?
Yeah, my client worked directly with Indie Grills on the design, so yeah, and I've taken responsibility for it. It got behind, kind of in front of us on it, but yeah, it's built.
My other question was, to the north of the setback, is that residential area, or is that, it's not commercial, is
I
it?
think it's zoned R2. It's a huge lot with a big house on it. It's probably a 10 or 12, and it's a huge parcel. Jonathan, you could probably pull that up, Jonathan, but
It's R2.
yeah.
Yeah. Are you pulling that up, Jonathan? So,
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
If you could switch to there you go. It just takes a second for I have too many layers turned on my GIS.
well, Jonathan, even it might be helpful to the commission as a whole to, even if you went to Google Maps, it might show us.
Here's the
layout.
parcel. It
Okay.
is a large parcel. It's zoned R2, residential use. A relatively larger home. with associated accessory structures. Looks like a barn or a pole barn or something like that.
Would he have any further questions for the petitioner?
Just clarification, you said this house is 2,800 square feet?
28, let me check my math here, 2841, I think is what, yeah, 2,841 square foot living space on the, it's a ranch-style plan, so it's
Sorry,
only
you said
got one story.
It's a three-bedroom, standard, three-bedroom, two-bath type home, or three-bath?
It's got, part of the basement's finished off with some additional living space, but that's, the footprint of the main floor is 2841.
Said you're at the maximum of what you can build on that lot.
I could have stretched it an inch and a half each direction, but that didn't pick me up very much,
No.
so.
Just another layer of insulation, basically.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I mean, when I sit down with my design team, you know, you want to utilize everything you can on those lots, and so when we designed, it was very intentional that we were tight to both front building setback, you know, with the home and side building setbacks. So, yep,
And this is a concrete patio?
yes.
All I got so far.
Okay. Jonathan, I don't know if anyone signed up to speak for this one, or if there's anyone online. It looks like there may be someone. Did you sign up, sir? I did. Okay. Sir, if you'd take a seat for a moment, we're going to invite this gentleman.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Culpepper, I presume?
That's correct.
Okay. If you'd state your name and your address?
Yes, my name is William Culpepper, and I own the property that you were just now referencing at 3402 South US 421. My first time in a meeting like this, so I just received a certified letter. I don't know if it's possible for you to pull up a more recent Google, just the Google map image of the property, but it is a completed home. There are two structures on it. There's a 10,000 square foot main house and a 10,000 square foot hospitality house. It's a significant property. We made a significant investment in, and I know that the builder worked with Hinkie and Holiday Farms, you know, intentionally to create that 50-foot setback in order to protect the value of our property. I understand that something has already been built. My concern is there are about 12 or 14 properties in Holiday Farms that their backyard goes into our property, and the one that's being discussed today requesting the setback, as you can see, is right in the middle of my front yard. And I'm not sure how these things work, but I don't understand if an exception is created for this property. Is that just one domino in the middle that falls for the rest of all the other properties? Or will other individuals ask for 3 feet plus another 10 feet or want to build a pool? And I'm trying to understand. So I guess as I stand here today, I'm not in favor of the request. I'd like to ask for a continuance just to have time to consult professionals to understand what this means to the entirety of my property. And perhaps one question you guys could answer is if a variance was allowed for this property, could that be the end of it? And you know, with this 3 foot, because I understand it's only 66 or whatever, however many feet that was described, but there's 14 other homes there that likely will want the exact same thing or more, and I'm trying to understand that. So I'm not in favor and would like to request a continuance to learn more.
Thank you, Mr. Culpepper. I think I can answer your narrow question the same way I addressed the other gentleman. We take each petition on its own merits. And so whether there was an approval or a denial tonight does not dictate what might happen next time if a variance request were to come in front of us. And that's really all the visibility I can give to that.
Okay, well thank you, appreciate that.
No, thank you. Commissioners?
Oh, did you have somebody online?
Oh, did we have anybody online? Thank you,
I'm
Josh.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I thought you said you did.
Okay, well, Mr. Culpepper is the only one that signed up. No one is online, so I will close the public comment at 6:53 and invite commissioner discussion. Or, excuse me, forgive me, I should give the petitioner a chance to answer anything that was raised during the remonstration, if he wishes.
I guess my only comment would be, and there's apparently a different procedure, not right, wrong, or indifferent, but different. I've built 15 or 16 homes in Holiday Farms. I've never had a request to get a permit for a patio. I've built at least 15 in Pemberton. Never had a request to get a permit for a patio. So at some point, I think there's been perhaps a change in procedure or requirements or something. And so again, I guess that my only point being, doesn't make it right or wrong, but I just, it's from the standpoint of, I'm not I'm not riding the range wild out there. It's something that we've never been ever asked for, an ILP permit for a patio. And I've been in both of those communities. I was in the 99 Home-A-Rama at Pemberton and the 2019 Home-A-Rama in Pemberton and the 2020 Home-A-Rama in Holiday Farm. So I've been at both communities since the inception and have never been even requested to get an ILP for a patio. So but again, we really do try to follow the rules. It's just kind of a new one for me anyway.
Thank you.
I would respond at least partially to that, and that is, you may still not be required to get a permit for a patio, but that there is still a setback requirement.
Oh, I understand. No, I'm not.
okay.
I'm not trying to.
Okay.
I'm not trying to blend the two.
Okay,
It's
okay.
just something that it's.
Yeah.
The permit part of it's just unique,
Okay.
or something we're going to have to get used to, I think.
Okay.
And the part that's interesting is, and so many times when you're at the design stage with a client, they don't know what they want. They know they want something, but they want to stand in their house and look out the backyard and go, gosh, I think my patio would work here or here or here. So sometimes it's a little premature to try to identify on a piece of paper, a plot plan, where the best place for a patio is until the client has a chance to see it from the house.
Looks like there's another porch at least probably built.
I'm sorry?
There's another porch or a first porch perhaps already built as well?
It has a lanai.
Okay, okay. And that's built at grade?
I'm sorry.
The porch is built at grade? It's not elevated, or is it?
The lanai is probably 4 feet or so
Oh, okay.
above grade, and then there's,
Okay.
yeah, that lot has quite a bit of slope to
Okay.
it from the back, which kind of creates another bit of a challenge as well.
Okay, and then the new porch, or the smaller one that's the subject tonight, is that also built at grade, or is that also elevated?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, there's some differentiation there. Again, the lanai is probably 4 feet above grade, and then has steps going down to meet grade for the patio.
Okay.
Really, it's a grilling station.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. I should note, and Mr. Dale, Mr. Smith, correct me, but since we are short a commissioner tonight, it still would take 3 votes for an approval. So a tie is actually a denial, is that correct?
A tie is a continuance, it's no.
Okay, it's no
Yeah.
action.
Yeah, no action, correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you for that clarification, just so that everyone in the room understands that. I invite any discussion. Oh, forgive me. Jonathan, Amanda texted that she has tried to join remotely, wasn't able to get in, so I don't know if somebody could watch out. It probably is a little situational for her, but if somebody could
Yeah.
watch out if she's trying to join.
I would point to IT in the back. Do you have access to the Zoom link? I'm sorry, what was the question? We have a board member who's trying to join remotely, and somebody needs to allow her into the Zoom link. I believe that link was created by IT. Yes, I will work on that. Okay, thank you.
And she may have moved on, and I'll text her that you're on the lookout for her in a moment here. All right, sorry for the interruptions, please.
I'm curious how many other homes are built adjacent to this house that may want to build outdoor, or are they already completed? Was this the last house on the road to be built?
I don't know the answer to that. Jonathan, do you know?
I don't know the exact,
I don't know the exact
Yeah.
answer. No, there are more vacant lots along the north side of Dartmoor. There's 4 or 5 built, maybe. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see 4 in my head, so there's 4 or 5 anyway that are built along the north side of Dartmoor there. Maybe more, but I can remember that many.
So Mr. Culpepper referenced you want a continuance on this to consult with someone. Is that something you would oppose?
No, that's fine.
question, is this holding up the C of O?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We got a conditional C of O for landscaping because they closed when it was not landscaped. It is now landscaped, and I believe we had an inspection maybe even today. Landscaping is complete, but, you know, so I think I had a May 15th deadline to get, you know, for the final C of O for landscaping, so we got it done and it's inspected. I don't know if there's any comments or not.
Okay. I just don't want to create a situation where you get past your deadline in May, and if this is continued, it'll be continued past that May deadline. And
I'm
so,
sorry, deadline for what?
you said landscaping, I believe?
Oh, it's
Okay.
landscaped.
This will be continued to June 3rd. So if you have a deadline that you have to meet by May, and this plays a role in that,
That's beyond me, Jonathan. I don't know how all that's related, to be candid with you. I know that on the inspection report, the only thing that was noted was, you know, landscaping, but I don't know the internal.
is the family living there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's all I care about. I don't want to keep a family from moving into
No,
their
oh,
home
no.
over an issue like this.
I got conditional, see, the house was
Yeah.
approved fully, except for landscaping, and that was simply because it was just a mud pie out there. So, yeah, they moved in with mud, now they've got grass, so they're all good to go.
And this is an open patio, it won't be enclosed or covered, is
Correct.
that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So, in the petitioner's narrative, they mentioned that they could not find anywhere in the Holiday Farms PUD where this 50-foot setback was mentioned. I went back and looked myself, I didn't see anywhere as well where, I think the most I saw was maybe a 35-foot setback. So can you explain to me the evolution of the setback? Did this occur during the platting?
That's correct. So the previous gentleman who lives behind this parcel that just spoke kind of shed light as to the creation of this. So when the PUD is drafted and approved, there was development standards. The one in question is the rear yard setback, correct? The minimum for the Holiday Farms PUD is 35 foot, right? And historically, developers reflect the minimum, right? You want to have the most buildable area, the least impact, right? And so they'll reflect that. Prior to this meeting, I tried to find the research as to why this developer would, knowing that it's a 35-foot, go above and beyond and be like, I don't want to do 35 foot, I want to make it 50. And I was trying to find that conversation that had occurred. I couldn't find it until this gentleman just spoke, and his testimony, his speech provided light as to why that was done. It was done so that this gentleman's land in the back, between him and the developer, he had that additional buffer. There is nothing in our zoning standards that prohibits developers from going and doing above and beyond the minimum, right? What we say is if you're going to do that, you have to plat it. And the number that's on the plat that's recorded, that's what we're going to hold you to. So you don't have to put 50, but if you put 50, understand that that's what we're holding you to, not 35. That's what occurred.
Without digging completely through the Holiday Farms subdivision, this is the only 50-foot setback for the most part, in the
Correct.
entire project. So there's clearly was a concern for the adjoining landowner, is why this 50-foot building setback. Because like I said, I read that letter, and then I went back and read through the PUD, and there was the minimums, and traditionally, Developers are gonna build where we let them build. So that helps me shed some light onto where that building setback line came from.
I guess the only thing I would add to that, and Jonathan, you'd sent this to me, and I happened to bring it with me. The actual matrix that they have, minimum rear setback lines range from 10 feet in section H, I, J, and G, going to 25 feet in E and F, and 30 feet in A through A, B, C, D. So it's the, and again, the 50 foot's not even mentioned on this matrix, but they, apparently, the rear building setback line can be as little as 10 feet. I don't know if they ever did that or not, but, yeah, but you provided me that matrix back.
But
on the
but
13th.
it was done during the plating process.
Yeah, so-
When the planning commission approved the primary plat, it was on that primary plat that we approved.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
Okay.
the concern, there's two things. One, the concern should have been raised at the plan commission stage about why are you platting such a large, in excess of the minimum line? I'm not sure if that question was asked or not, but it was clearly okay because it was approved, right? So here we are. And the other thing would be you can always amend the plat. And despite several, not to jump off into the weeds on that, but despite numerous petitions, we've elected not to amend the plat. So.
And just, when folks buy these lots, they get a copy of the plat, they know this was, I mean, I guess, they're not buying the lots prior to the platting being done. They're aware of this this 50-foot
Yeah.
building setback line when they purchase lots. Just, it's the same question I bring up every
Yeah,
time.
the recording of the plat at the county is what actually creates the square you'll see on my GIS map. So there's nothing to buy until it's recorded.
So the homeowner and the home builder were aware of the 50-foot setback?
I don't want to speak to what they're aware to. I just can speak to what was available to them. I don't know if I don't want to speak to the research or the level of research they did, so I don't want to say that they were or were not aware, but it was available. It was recorded. They had access to it if they wished to look at it.
It is customary at the closing for the buyer to get a copy of the survey, which would show these building lines. Now, as to whether they read them or not, at the closings, that's another thing, but it is standard practice to include that information.
And you agree that they would not have needed to get a permit to build a patio?
I'm not sure what our process is in this case, do you, for a patio?
So there's a multi-pointed conversation, right? And I'm going to do my best to summarize it. You've always needed a permit to get a patio, or a permit for patios. That's been a policy that's not changed, right? Holiday Farms is unique in that most of the people that you see that have existing patios and things of that nature, the approvals were, I'm going to say two-phased, right? Phase one, they came through and got a building permit for the house and only the house. And if you look at the permits for these houses, you'll notice that the exterior features, think of landscaping, think of patios, things of that nature, the exterior features are not included in the submittal for the construction of the house. So the house typically comes through as one permit, phase one. Once the house is built or is in the process of being built, the owners are consulting with Indie Grills or some other contractor to essentially put the external components to the house, right? So now you have phase two. And typically these types of issues are only caught if the external features of the house are under construction at the time of final inspection. So our inspectors are going out there and they're only looking at the plans that were submitted as part of the house. And if it goes through the entire process and our inspectors look at the house plans, look at the house, that's what was built, they will issue the C of O, they'll give the final inspection, and then as staff, we're done at that site. Now transition to the second component. things that are built without permits, things that are built after the final inspection, right? Things that may or may not have been issued permits. We, as a office, are a complaint-driven code enforcement. What that means is we try to be lenient, we try to give grace. We understand that regular Joes don't know all the building codes or all the zoning regulations. So what's happened is historically, most people haven't asked. They build their house, they get their final C of O, the family moves in, suddenly they want a nice outdoor lawn or patio, and they do it with a contractor that's not included on the permit, right? So as staff, we have no idea this is even occurring until somebody comes in and asks permission to do something, at which point we discover that there's 17 other people in Holiday Farms that have things that were probably not permitted. But again, we're a complaint-driven office as far as that's concerned. So that's how you can end up in a situation where you have homes being built with external features, pick a feature, whether it's a patio or an outdoor kitchen, whatever, and these items are encroaching into setbacks or possibly drainage easements, things of that nature, and they're there and they're existing, and you have petitioners who are seeing these things, and they're like, well, I just want what my neighbor has. Well, there's a chance your neighbor didn't ask permission. There's a chance your neighbor probably built in a setback or an easement. And the reason that it's not been an issue is because we have not received a code enforcement complaint. People in Holiday Farms tend to not turn their neighbors in, right, which is their right to do. So the only time we enforce these things is when we get a complaint. I hope all of that said, that's how we end up with these situations.
So technically, they should have gotten a permit.
Yes.
Everyone should have.
Our department has never had a policy where patios did not require permits. It's just oftentimes when they get permits, they don't include the patios on the plans that are submitted. And we go through the entire process. We issue the C of O. We do the final inspection. The house matches the plans we have, and then staff leaves. And we have no reason to go back to that site. And then after that point is when all the landscaping and external features tend to appear on houses, and staff has no involvement in it.
I guess my comment to that, though, Jonathan, if someone's adding something after they take occupancy of the home, that could be very true. We don't close houses without patios. I mean, I guess to differentiate between what you're describing and what I'm describing, every house I've built in Pemberton and every house I've built in Holiday, the patio's been there when we know we don't want to be trucking across trying to get through a 5-foot side yard to pour a concrete patio after the house is built. So we're pouring patios when we're doing driveways. So I'm not going to say that people aren't after the fact adding elements to their property, but I can say that the 15 I've built in Pemberton and 15 I've built in Holiday Farms, every patio that we've installed has been installed when when the inspection's been done.
As part of the original permit for the house.
Assuming, I'd always assume that because of those 30 jobs, I've never been asked for a separate permit. So again, I've owned the company 30 years. I don't want to claim ignorance because that would be ignorant. But I guess my point is that if that's been the procedure, the 30 or so I've built since 2019, just in those two communities, we've always had the patio in. We can't.
I don't think the petitioner is self-reporting anything we need to do code enforcement on.
No. What I can say, we'll bring it back to this petition. What I can say is this petition, the patio was not included in the permit paperwork. It just wasn't. And that's what triggered the inspector to notice it.
What's in front of us isn't a lack of permit. What's in front of us is a request for a variance setback on a patio that is already built.
Yeah, that's
However
correct.
it got there. and this has gone on for a bit, so I'm confirming my understanding. The setback is recorded on the plat is 50 feet.
Yes, sir.
And we have testimony tonight as to perhaps the reason why is the adjacent property owner had negotiated that with the developer.
Sir.
Okay. So I view the state of affairs as the remonstrator has said he's against it, but he's willing to consider, he has asked us to consider a continuance so he can think about it more and its ramifications. As I am on darn near every setback variance, this is something I would be disinclined to allow. Having said that, I invite a motion, and the remonstrator has even asked for a continuance and not an actual vote tonight.
I'm ready to make a motion for a continuance, actually. Let me get to terminology so I sound right. I move that docket 2026-04-DSV Development Standards Variance to encroach 3 feet into the 50-foot rear yard setback for construction of a patio at 10850 Dartmoor Court be continued to our June 3rd, 2026 BZA meeting.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Dale. Okay, thank
Sorry it
you.
took so long.
Sorry, it has been continued to the next meeting.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. We will now move on to our next petition, which is 2026-05 SE, a special exception pursuant to Section 194.07B2A to provide for the use of manufacturing soaps and detergents in the urban heavy industrial I-3 zoning district. Mr. Smith, I assume you're taking the staff presentation?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so this property, 1073 Bennett Parkway, zoned I3. And what's unique about this petition, or actually really our zoning ordinance, is even though what the petitioner is doing would fall in the parameters of I2, the language in our zoning ordinance explicitly requires any I1 or I2 that wants to operate in I3. It requires those operations to receive special exceptions, approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to operate. That's a little unique, but that's exactly what we're here to discuss. Again, from a zoning standpoint, if you look in our zoning ordinance, this operation would classify as manufacturing soaps and detergents, which is not explicitly permitted by right in I3. This is a multi-tenant building that was built in 2004. It's a 30,000 square foot facility. The petitioner has provided, if you look at the exhibits, they've provided, Exhibit 9 specifically, a business description. They've provided a site plan and surveys, if you look at these exhibits. To skip to the staff analysis as far as the comprehensive plan, the comp plan supports office research and technology in this area. This designation is established to promote the development of research facilities, testing laboratories, admin facilities, and other uses, which is important in this case, other uses such as distribution, warehouse, flex centers, and light manufacturing is generally free from ejectable elements such as odor, dust, smoke, and glare are also encouraged. So in this case, staff, when we see that, we see what the petitioner is proposing, and it aligns with the comprehensive plan's recommendation of light manufacturing or assembly. Jumping to the second part of our analysis, which is the zoning. Again, this is I3. It's a heavy industrial zoning classification designed to accommodate heavy manufacturing and processing facilities that require a substantial amount of outdoor storage. They require extensive community facilities, access to what we call arterial streets, which are our main streets. Permitted uses in this district have excessive outdoor storage and service areas. They generate heavy traffic. The petitioner's proposal is unlike the heavy industrial land uses intended for I3. The proposed use is not a heavy manufacturing operation. It's more closely aligned with general industrial land uses. The zoning ordinance identifies the requested use as I-2, as previously stated. The proposal aligns more closely with I-2 zoning districts uses. The request for the special exception will allow this to operate in I-3. Skipping through the other criteria as far as driveway location, parking, external features such as the building character, landscaping. Unless the petitioner has changed their mind, I'm not aware of any external features that will be changing to the site, with the exception of possible signage, right, for their business. To the questions that we have to answer, the findings of fact related to a special exception, there are 3 that we have to answer. Number 1, the proposed use will not be injurious to public health and safety. Number 2, the proposed use will not injure or adversely affect adjacent areas or property values. And 3, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district, land uses authorized therein, and the town's comp plan. Number 1, staff agrees with the petitioner on this criteria. Granting this request will not be injurious to public health and safety. From a use standpoint, their proposal is less impactful than other permitted, more intense uses, such as the manufacturing of railroad equipment, farm machinery, or boiler tankers. This building was designed with manufacturing in mind, meeting applicable building and fire codes and supporting adequate parking and loading berths for truck deliveries. The petitioner also completed public noticing. As of this writing, we did not receive any complaints or concerns from the public. For these reasons, we believe this criteria number 1 was met. Criteria number 2, the proposed use will not injure or adversely affect the adjacent area or property values therein. We agree with the petitioner on this criteria. If approved, the use would be confined inside the existing building, utilizing infrastructure already on site, such as the loading berths and employee parking. The building was designed in 2004 to meet development standards of an I-3 heavy industrial use. Their proposal is more consistent with permitted uses in I-2, which are less intense than those allowed in I-3. Additionally, the property is surrounded by other light distribution and medium industrial businesses. Given the existing buffer and the landscaping already on site, adjoining properties are not anticipated to be adversely affected. The petitioner completed public noticing, and again, as of this writing, we did not receive any concerns from the public. So once again, barring objections from the public being raised tonight, we believe this criterion was met. Item number 3, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district, land uses authorized therein, and the town's comp plan. Again, we agree with the petitioner. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of this district, land uses authorized therein, and the comp plan. The character of I-3 zoning district encourages manufacturing, which is exactly what the petitioner is proposing. Their proposed operation is similar to other manufacturing operations in the area, such as Tri-Phase Technologies and Fanimation Fan, which is located north and east of this site. The comprehensive plan designates this area as an office, research, and technology industrial, which allows for manufacturing and distribution, again, which is what the petitioner is proposing. For this reason, staff believes the requested use is consistent with the character of the nearby land uses and also aligns with the intent of the comprehensive plan. For those reasons, summarizing, we believe that criterion was met. Because we found in the affirmative all 3 findings, based on that report, staff's position is favorable regarding the requested entitlement. A sample motion, again, has been provided on the last page. Happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I would invite the petitioner up if they're here to speak. If you would state your name and address.
My name's Ken Woodcox, address 3188 Blue Water Court, Newburgh, Indiana, 47630. I'm here representing Edward Ivy, the petitioner, and also representing AutoCore System. So, first, to kind of give some context here, I want to thank the staff with the town and the planning department, kind of everybody that was involved in reviewing this petition from, like I said, the town planning department, from the beginning, the professionalism that was exhibited, the responsiveness, the thoughtful analysis as we really went through this with the city of Zionsville to learn a little bit as well. We've looked for property in multiple different areas around the Indianapolis area, and each place you go, it's a little bit different, and you learn a little bit. And I believe the process was actually helpful in the end to help us make a better determination of what we want to do. To give you some context of who we are, what we do, AutoClore System is a nationwide company, and we specialize in leasing, manufacturing, and servicing commercial dish equipment, dish machines, and providing cleaning products to restaurants, hotels, healthcare facilities, schools, and other hospitality institutions. For the last couple of decades, we've operated our business in the Indianapolis area, most recently on 79th Street in Marion County. Our proposed operation in this location would be about 12,000 square feet in a 30,000 square foot multi-tenant building. The facility for us would primarily serve as a regional hub for service, distribution, warehousing, and administrative operations, with light manufacturing activities related to the blending of soaps and detergents. That's what outlines us in the I-2 parameter. Importantly, our operation is, as Jonathan said, is more consistent with I-2, light industrial, general industrial use rather than the traditional heavy industrial operations. As notated in the staff report, our operation does not involve heavy outdoor machinery or equipment, substantial outdoor storage, or any type of unusual high traffic generation or any type of nuances that generally are common with I-3 heavy industrial buildings and operations. So think noise, odors, trash. We're not going to bring those to your community here. And as Jonathan stated, our operation is less intensive than the uses already outlined in that I-3 zoning area. Our operations, one of the concerns sometimes is our operation is completely enclosed within the building. In that building, there's no outdoor storage. We're not proposing any exterior modifications. We're not trying to change any traffic flow. We're not trying to modify parking, and we need no additional outdoor storage. The site already contains the infrastructure necessary to support our use, including the parking, loading areas, utilities, and appropriate building systems that are already there for what we need. Now, from a community standpoint, this is a relatively low-impact facility. We employ approximately 14 people in these locations on average nationwide. We operate primarily during standard business hours. We utilize medium cargo-sized vans like your Ford Transit vans you see on the roads today. This is not a large-scale industrial trucking company that's going in there. Our service employees come into the locations in the morning. They go out into the community and service the customers and come back at the end of the day. Our facility is not open to the public. We do not have any type of retail sales, and we have zero customer traffic. AutoClore, we also believe that we would be a strong long-term addition to the Zionsville business community. We take pride in operating professional, well-maintained facilities, investing in our employees, and being responsible neighbors in the communities we serve nationwide. Personally, as an Indiana resident, I'm excited for AutoClore to integrate into this community. Most importantly, the request is already specifically outlined within the zoning ordinance through the special exception process for I-2 uses within the I-3 district. We believe our proposed use aligns closely with both the intent of the original ordinance and the character of the surrounding area as it is today. And we appreciate the opportunity to consider this tonight. If there's any questions regarding this or regarding our business operation, I'll be glad to answer.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
One question, you said blending of soaps. Does that require any exhaust?
Excuse me?
The blending of soaps, is there any requirements of like exhaust fumes or anything coming off of that?
No.
Nothing of that nature?
No, it's essentially these are concentrated products that are blended in stainless steel tanks with water. that they come into. So you're looking at an electric motor that's spinning a little propeller that's about like this. There's no exhaust fumes that we're pumping out of the building or
Okay.
anything like that. Great question.
I'm going to note, and I've had to remind myself in reading this petition a couple of times, I-3 is heavier industrial than I-2. I-2 would permit this use, correct? There would not be any need to apply for a zoning or
Yes,
special
sir.
exception?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a permitted use in I-2.
So I've been trying to wrap my brain around why it got written that way. I haven't figured it out yet, but it has been. So
That's right.
You're here, and thank you for your good nature. But since you're here having to do this, you've mentioned your organization is operated in Indiana. I'm not able to name whatever Indiana department would be concerned about you guys pouring things into the wastewater treatment that you shouldn't be, but are there any open or recent investigations by the environmental authorities here in Indiana?
So one of the things, we've been in business almost 90 years. So one of the things, we're based out of Mountain View, California. If you could imagine, the regulations in California are a little different. We've learned a lot along the way. And so what I would share with you is this would be our first manufacturing facility in the state of, production facility in the state of Indiana. However, we operate about 14 or 15 of these across the country in different locations. And one of the studies that we put a lot of work into, working with the fire department, we've already been in contact with Ron Lips, the fire marshal here, about MAQs and things such as that. But we put the same practices that we put into our California manufacturing facilities, production facilities, whether it's secondary containment. We're monitored by the EPA because it's we have sanitizers that are in every restaurant and kitchen that you go eat at today. We work with all those in every jurisdiction because, number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, it's required in their jurisdiction and what they actually oversee. So as far as open cases or anything like that, that is not the case. We haven't had anything on this side of the country at all. Anything that we have had exposure to would be California-based. We treat all of our wastewater before we dispose of it back into the system. That's regulated and monitored, where we have to turn it in every month. In any situations where you're actually having to do more than that, you hire a waste haul company, and they would pull that out. But the type of chemicals that you're producing or blending in these locations is the same chemicals you have in your house. So when it spills on the floor and things like that, it's the same exact chemicals that they're using to clean El Mason or Sweet Green or wherever right here in this community. So it's, when we're talking about chemicals, we're not manufacturing new raw materials and extruding them out and things like that. It's really just your common commodities, soaps that you're having today. So for us, the majority of our wastewater, you're testing anywhere between 7, 7.5, 8 on the pH scale.
Thank you, that's all I have for now.
Will there be any outdoor storage?
There will not. Completely contained within the current building.
I'm with Jim. I don't know why we have, I guess I know why we have this requirement from I-3. If it's compliant in I-2, they still have to come in front of us. I understand the thinking behind the standard, but yeah, this is a pretty simple one for me. I think staff got it right.
If it was, this is entirely no bearing on him, but, and I stumbled into this even frankly in the pre-meeting, if this was I-2 needing a special exception for something that was by right in I-3, I'd have a long list of things I'd require. But this is the more intense industrial use. It's, the EPA is going to get involved if something's going awry, and I don't think anybody wants to sign up for that. So now that I've corrected my earlier comments before the meeting to staff, I'll invite, nobody signed up to speak, but is there anyone online? IT? I'm sorry, one more time. I'm dealing with other issues. Oh, is there anybody online wishing to speak on this petition? I do not believe so. There is not. Okay. Looks like I am opening and closing public comment at 7:33 p.m. Any further discussion?
Agreement.
Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Thank you all.
Well, we'll see.
I'll make a motion. I move that docket 2026-05-SE, special exception to allow manufacturing of soaps and detergents at 10730 Bennett Parkway, Zionsville, Indiana, 46077, be approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, and evidence submitted during the hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fedor. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you all. Congratulations. Welcome to the neighborhood. Okay, on to the third petition and final petition of the evening. 2026-06 DSV, a development standards variance pursuant to section 194.082, Table 3, to reduce the 45-foot road frontage requirement for property in the single-family residential R1 zoning district at 6724 West Stonegate Drive, Zionsville. Jonathan, let's kick it off.
Yes, sir. IT, if you can switch the TV to my screen, I think it'll be helpful in explaining the request. Okay, so yes, so the petitioner is actually requesting a development standard variance to reduce a standard in 194082. The standard requires all of our rural zoning properties to have a minimum road frontage of 45 feet. The petitioner's request is to reduce that 45-foot road frontage requirement, to reduce that requirement down to 20 feet. And if approved, that would allow this parcel, I apologize, I just zoomed in, that would allow this parcel, as part of his proposal, to utilize what you see, which is this access easement. So the 20 feet, that's where that number comes from. This property is otherwise landlocked and, as you can see on the screen, cannot produce 45 feet of road frontage in its current configuration. Going through the staff report, you'll see two things that I'll focus on: the secondary plat for Stonegate, as well as the findings. The petitioner's narrative does a good job of also summarizing this request. But to speak to the creation of the lot, which I think is important in this case, this lot was created in 2004 utilizing what we call an exemption in the zoning language, which essentially says if your parcel, your parent parcel, existed in its current configuration as of January 1st, 1999, you're entitled to one lot split without being subject to the requirements of the subdivision control ordinance, right? So that's important, January 1st, 1999. And you'll see on the screen this parcel, which was the leftover piece of the parent parcel. And this parcel, they used to be one. And in 2004, the owner at that time took advantage of that exemption and split essentially this parcel from the parent parcel, thus creating what you see today. Although it was done legally and recorded at the county through that exemption process, it's clear that they did not take into account the development standards. And because they didn't have to go through the SCO review and approval process that most subdivisions have to do, right, which is through Plan Commission, and because the county doesn't have a mechanism to prohibit people from recording these types of lots, right, what occurs is people take this exemption, they think, I'm exempt from the SCO, so they just go and they record an updated legal description at the county, which is how the lot is created. So it's legally created, however, it is non-conforming, right? And so that's what occurred here. And over time, I guess ownership changes hands, and the petitioner is now the owner of this property, although he did not create the situation. So jumping to the proposal, he wants a variance to reduce the 45-foot road frontage requirement to 20 feet. And if you read through the documents, the intent again, is to utilize this access easement that is owned by the Stonegate HOA. And on the recorded plat, it's clearly marked for use for 117 and 116, but the petitioner has provided documentation that shows, in his opinion, that he has the right to utilize this access easement. And so that's the request. The request before you is to reduce it from 45 foot to 20 foot. It's ultimately the petitioner's responsibility, if the request is granted, right? It's the petitioner's responsibility to identify where that 20 feet comes from, right? So the request before you is only focusing on the reduction of 45 feet down to 20 feet. Approval of this variance request does not grant the petitioner the right to utilize this access easement, all right? It's going to be a separate conversation that will have to occur between the petitioner and Stonegate HOA, okay? So we're only focusing on reducing the 45 foot from 45 foot down to 20 foot, and then it's the petitioner's responsibility to identify where that 20 foot comes from, okay? Jumping to the, if you look on page 4, you'll see the development standards, again, table 3, 45 foot. In all districts, including this one, the petitioner provided a good exhibit, you'll see on page 4, essentially that shows his parcel and the block A, which is the utility and access easement. A good exhibit that shows how it relates to this parcel. Page 5 is a screenshot, a snippet of the recorded plat, and you'll note on the recorded plat that it clearly states Block A, common access, and utility easement for lots 116 and 117. There is no mention of this parcel. However, there's other conversations to be had as to whether or not this parcel can actually utilize the access easement. Skipping to the findings. With a development standard variance, we have to answer 3 findings. The grant will or will not be injurious to public health and safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Number 2, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And number 3, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would or would not result in unnecessary hardship in the use of the property. Staff's position on item number 1, we agree with the petitioner. If the request is granted, they're still required to receive approval of an what we call an ILP, an improvement location permit. This ensures the development of this site will comply with water, sewer, building code, fire requirements, etc., prior to issuing the certificate of occupancy. All of these standards are set in place, intended to protect public health, safety, and the general welfare of the community. Additionally, which this has since changed, but at the time of this writing, I had not heard from any of the members of the public. We have since obviously heard from members of the public today, but at this time we had not. And so for the reasons listed in our staff report, we believe this criterion was met. And I want to take this time, before I forget, I just want to point out, I received several letters. Some of them are attached to the agenda. I had time to put them digitally on the agenda. Some of them I did not have the opportunity to put on the digital agenda. However, all of them y'all were provided copies with, so they're in front of you if you want to take a look at those. Jumping to item number 2, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Once again, staff agrees with the petitioner. The property will be developed with a single-family residence, which from a use standpoint is the same as all the surrounding land uses. Developing the site would actually add value to the property. For these reasons, we don't anticipate adjoining properties being adversely impacted. Additionally, again, this is dated because we have heard, we heard from neighbors on Monday and neighbors today, but at the time of this writing, we had not heard from neighbors. And so for those reasons, we believe that criterion was met. Item number 3, strict application of the zoning ordinance would or would not result in unnecessary hardship in the use of the property. Staff, we agree with the petitioner. Strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship in the use of this property. Again, unnecessary hardship defined as all relevant factors when taken together indicate the land involved cannot yield a reasonable return because of a unique set of circumstances. A claim of unnecessary hardship justifying the grant of a variance cannot be based on a self-created condition. Mere showing of economic loss is not sufficient. In this case, the zoning ordinance allows rural properties to be split and recorded without a zoning review to confirm the resulting properties meet development standards. This is the case for this petitioner. Again, it was done prior to in 2004. And again, based on the above analysis, we believe this is not believed to be a self-created condition, and the owner is facing an actual hardship in the use of the property. Without the requested variance to reduce the 45-foot road frontage, this subject parcel cannot be developed in its current configuration. For these reasons, staff believes this criterion was met. Because we found in the affirmative for all three criteria, staff's position is favorable of the requested variance, reducing road frontage from 45 feet to 20 feet, as depicted on the recorded plat for the Stonegate subdivision. Again, a sample motion's provided. Happy to answer any questions you have. I will notate that we have provided a condition of approval. The condition being as part of their submittal for the ILP, the petitioner is required to provide documentation that clearly shows they have approval from the easement owner to utilize Block A as access for the parcel. That's the one condition we've attached to be submitted alongside their building permit when that time comes, if the variance is approved. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Well, I'm going to jump in with one, but it may be more for our legal team. It feels like I'm being asked to consider a hypothetical. If this person has legal access to the property, would I allow a road frontage reduction? Is it proper that we consider this variance request before that's established?
Yeah, I believe that's a separate legal matter. The public and owners have a right to request a variance, and the board's job is to just consider the evidence within the confines of the variance request.
Then I will proceed contemplating a hypothetical. Thank you. I would invite the petitioner to come up and speak. If you would state your name and address, and if both of you speaking, name and address for both.
My name is Morgan Reese. I'm with Innovative Engineering and Consulting, and I'm here with the petitioner, Eric Murray.
My name is Eric Murray. I'm 441 North Park, Indianapolis, Indiana. Used to live in Zionsville since I was 2, however, so just recently moved.
So first, I want to thank y'all this evening for allowing us to present our petition for the property located at 6724 West Stonegate Drive. And then, so starting just with a property overview, this larger picture is just showing where in Zionsville this property is located, obviously within the Stonegate subdivision. To the north is the Stonegate Elementary School, and then the Zionsville West Middle School. And you can see from the aerial view that this lot, as Jonathan said, is essentially landlocked aside from the 20-foot access and utility easement. This was indicated as Block A in the Section 5, Stonegate Section 5 plat. And we have historically, the petitioner has historically used this Block A as the ingress and egress for the site. Again, as Jonathan said, the variance of development standards request we have is in relation to Section 194.082, specifically Table 3, which requires 45 foot of road frontage for our site, but given the circumstances, we can only get 20 feet, and so that's what we're requesting tonight. The practical difficulty here arises primarily from the platting of Stonegate Section 5. I have a document which was also in the submittal for the supplement to an amendment, and in Article X, I'm just going to read part of it. And this was given to the petitioner from the president of the Stonegate HOA? Developer of the Stonegate HOA. And so it says, as a condition to a willingness on the part of developer to permit the added parcel, and I will note, added parcel is this site, and it's indicated by, there is a legal description at the end, which clearly defines added parcel is this site. So to permit added parcel to enjoy the use and benefit of Block A Drive as an exclusive means of vehicular ingress and egress through the development, the owners of the added parcel hereby agree to subject the use and development of the added parcel to limiting ingress and egress to and from the added parcels to Block A Drive, restricting development of the added parcel to no more than one single-family dwelling and related outbuildings and improvements, and the powers and authorities reserved to the developer in Article 5 as if the added parcel constituted a lot within the development. And so from this document, we feel that it was the intent the entire time to have this lot part of Stonegate Section 5. However, in the recorded plat, it got left off for whatever reason. And so this Block A is the only way for Eric to be able to get onto his site. There's no other alternative access. And so, as Jonathan said, that's why we're in this situation, and the hardship was created not by the petitioner, but by Stonegate. So in conclusion, we are requesting this to be able to build a single-family home consistent with the character of the Stonegate subdivision. And we will be having strict adherence to the 45-foot severely limits the available usage of this lot. It's 1 acre, and so it's larger than the other surrounding lots in Stonegate that are nearby. Finally, the hardship was created outside the petitioner's control. With that, I'll open it to any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any question for the petitioner?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. I would invite you all to take a seat. I think we have three folks that are signed up to speak. I'll note, again, as Jonathan did, we have some letters of remonstrance before us. Some of those people also appear on the list to speak, which is their right, but not all of them. So if you haven't had a chance to read those letters, please take a moment. I'll invite Maureen Murphy to speak. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, sure. Maureen Murphy, and I live at 6722 West Stonegate Drive, Zionsville, Indiana, 46077. Would it be possible, Jonathan, just to pull up where I live relative to Eric Murray's lot? Because different Eric.
IT, if you could switch to my computer. Thank you. There. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the parcel highlighted is your
Yep,
parcel.
that's 6722, and then my neighbor Eric Poland is the other neighbor in Stonegate who shares that Stonegate-owned driveway. We use that to enter and exit our driveways and garages. And I just on the hardship factor, I mean, I think it's fairly clear. You take a look at Stonegate, it's a master plan community. Those are the lines of Stonegate, and they don't have these kind of random lots in and out. When we purchased our lot, I believe Mr. Murray's lot was zoned R3. So we were fairly sure that there wasn't going to be a house built behind us. So yeah, just to summarize, I'm opposing the variance request, 45 feet of frontage, which is, standard is for safety and independent access of residences. The application is asking for a 20 feet access easement. I do want to note that the actual usable drive, and again, I know this goes to the hypothetical, but the actual usable drive, I measured it several times last week, it's 11 feet is the driveway that between my lot and the Poland's lot. It does kind of fan out as you get to the curb, just to have that nice kind of curb thing, but it's an 11-foot driveway. Stonegate designed that for 2 residences to share. We're talking about adding a third one. That shared access is, so not designed for that. I'm not really sure how a, fire truck gets in there, or all the sorts of things you guys worry about with zoning and why there are those laws. There has also not been any clear explanation of how trash service would work, deliveries, utility work. I'm thinking about where's the mailbox and just all the things that are already going on in that 11-foot drive. Obviously, construction will be very disruptive to our existing homes, not entering our garage. As you can see, we're on kind of, we call this little eyebrow cul-de-sac. It's one way for two-way traffic. Not a lot of street parking there or any, there's not much room to maneuver there. Already narrow. And yeah, this is not a small adjustment. It's a request to develop what is fundamentally a non-conforming landlocked lot that lacks any proper frontage, depends entirely on shared access, and doesn't meet the basic standards. So I respectfully ask that the board declines the variance. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jeff Horton.
Thank you. I'm here representing my wife and I, and we reside at 6101 Morton Road. And that's
Full name, please?
Jeffrey Horton.
Thank you.
Did I not say that? Sorry. Jeff and Joyce Horton, residing at 6101 Morton Road in Zionsville. We're 2 spots down from the space there. And do me one favor, Jonathan, just zoom out one touch so we can see. Yeah, that's okay. So are you, okay, so you're on my property there. And for the minutes, we weren't included in the digital, but I did turn in a letter against it from Joan Brown this afternoon. She chose, didn't have the ability to come with us tonight, but it is included in the packet as Jonathan explained to us. So our biggest complaint is that it's the putting a house there becomes inconsistent with the property lines. As you can see, and Maureen mentioned, the Stonegate subdivision has a very clear outline and predetermined shape. And by putting a house at that position at the back of our property, so we all face Morton Road, which as you're looking to the map is to the left. Putting a house there could potentially disrupt our use of our rural property there that is very few left in Zionsville, but we're going to take use of it as long as we have it. So that's a part of our biggest complaint. I do feel the comment on the property value was self-inflicted. If you look at the boundaries of Stonegate, this is clearly outside of it. It's an attempt to be part of Stonegate without paying the dues and the fees to be and the property values to be in Stonegate. So it's the old saying, sometimes if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. It's too good to be true to try to get Stonegate address and access with a lump like that. The only other comment, to reiterate, the use of our properties could be affected by a house back there. I know the neighbors to us have some animals and stuff, and we all use our property in varying ways, so a house doesn't fit there according to our opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Looks like I've got one more signed up to speak in person, and forgive me if I get your last name wrong, but Mr. Bob Einters. If you would state your name and address, please.
Bob Einters, 6001 Morton Road. I'd first like to thank all of you for taking the time and the multiple hours, and God knows through the year how much time you spent here, but I appreciate it. I have lived at my home, my wife and I and our then 6 children, since 1987. So we predated Stonegate. We, of course, predated the Early Learning Center. We predated the apartments that stand in front of us. And I will say that we actually supported Stonegate with some reservations, but did not object to it, and supported Dr. Wright's and his attempts there. We, in fact, supported the building of the Early Learning Center, a little bit chagrined that the tunnel of trees that I took care of for more than 20 years disappeared despite the promises of the school board, but that's for another topic for another time. And I have some mixed feelings about this particular property that has been proposed. First, I actually disagree that it's going to help my property value. I will say I dearly appreciate having $1 million homes in my back 3 acres, right, abutting mine, but having a home right there, it's just incongruous, it's anomalous, and I don't see how it's going to help my property value. And if anything, I think when it comes to selling our property, it may in fact hurt our property value. So I'm concerned there. I'm concerned as well that they never came and talked to me about putting the property there. The school board talked to me about putting the property. Stonegate came to me and talked to me before they put the property. I have no idea what will happen. I have sheep and goats on those back a couple of acres and have for years and years and years. Yeah, I just not so sure that it fits as the former speaker was saying. That not sure it really fits with the intended use of the land, or at least as it's being used currently. I will say I'm pretty laissez-faire when it comes to a property owner's rights. Usually feel that you do what you want with your property. I perhaps don't feel as strongly as my colleagues being against this, but for the reasons I've just mentioned, it just doesn't fit. It will not help our property values. It probably will hurt a little bit, and at the very least, I would ask that you have a continuance so that the Mr. Murray, and I knew his father and worked with his father, could at least talk to us about what he's planning to do. But right now I stand not in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online? Okay. I will close public comment at 8:01 and invite the petitioner to address any of the concerns.
I used to pay HOA dues, and since 2004 till I can't remember what year I was paying HOA dues. I was also paying undeveloped lot maintenance fees, and the Stonegate HOA never did anything related to, you know, maintaining the property like they do on some of the other undeveloped properties. So I used to bushwhack that property. I'm not sure when you bought your lots, if you were one of the original owners, but when I bought, there was no, it was called the Chamberlain parcel is how it was positioned, because the people that owned that other parcel, or that first house, was the Chamberlain, and I imagine they were friends
Just
with,
real quick, you are addressing us. I know
Yeah,
it's-
right.
It's difficult
Sorry.
because you're answering their
I just want to
questions.
make
Yeah.
sure, I want to put them
You're being
at ease.
respectful. I
I'm trying to be
understand.
respectful, right. That they were, I think they were friends with the Wrightses, and I think that they supported the development. I think that's how that got put in place. Stonegate is full of multiple properties that the only way to get into the property, to the garage, is through the easement, is through the shared drive. If you look at the other properties along there, they were all developed with their own driveway other than these two properties. So my you know, you can assume that, well, why does that other property have, why do those two properties have that shared drive? And it's the only reason those two properties have that shared drive is to access my property as well, too. I think there's some conversation about the 20 feet, and that comes with the utility easement that's part of Block A as well. And so that's where the 20 feet is coming from, rather than just the 11-foot driveway, because there's also an easement on those two shared properties for utilities in Block A. So that's where the 20 feet is coming from. As far as properties being landlocked and less than 20 feet, I know we're not supposed to talk about other variances, but there are two other properties in Stonegate proper that, and one is being built right now, that are in that same situation where they don't have the 45 feet road frontage, 6155 and I think 6120. And 6120 is being built right now. So it was an old house that got torn down, and I don't think they're using the same foundation. I think there's a whole new foundation that was poured too. So, anything? Yeah.
I was just going to say, regarding the utilities, we have, this isn't what it's for, but I just wanted to let you know that we have talked to the utilities, and they don't see any issues with extending through the easement because it is a utility as well as an access easement, so they don't see any issues as far as that goes. And then also, since this is zoned as R1, it is zoned to have a single-family residential property on it, and every other property in this green area has a single-family residence, except for this 1 acre property. And so, yeah, that was all I wanted to add.
Why was this property not included as part of the plat for Stonegate?
My opinion after going through all this stuff is that I don't think Larry wanted to spend the money on replatting, to tell you the truth, because everything, I mean, it's called added parcel, and in the verbiage, it says a lot in Stonegate rather than just, if it wasn't going to be a lot in Stonegate, they would have said separate lot with access through Stonegate. And, you know, and in all of this, you know, all of these documentations that I have, when I got the property, I'm supposed to follow all the architectural guidelines. There is some conversation of, you know, whether I'm using Stonegate and not paying dues. I wrote to the president of the board and I said, I'm fully, would love to make it where this lot is required to pay HOA dues. Because right now it's this gray area that never got resolved when Larry did all the paperwork for the development. So, so I'm in favor of having it officially part of Stonegate, required to pay the dues. I paid the dues for years. I don't know what happened, you know, when my dad kind of took charge of the property, and whether, I think he paid the dues, but I couldn't find records of them, but I paid the dues for years.
As the owner of this parcel, are you entitled to use the amenities of Stonegate?
If I pay the dues, yes.
Okay.
It's in the documents, yes. Yeah, as long as I pay the dues.
Eric, this was never a farm field where this was like the access wasn't designed to be for farmers to be able to gain access in there to harvest crops or
Not in
anything like
any,
that. It was-
not in any of the documents, no.
Okay.
Yeah. And it does have a Stonegate address. It doesn't have a Morton Road address. It's got a Stonegate address. So,
You know, as a lot owner in my neighborhood, as part of the HOA rules in my neighborhood where I live, if I stop paying dues and I get in trouble, do you, is there a similar
that's never,
repercussion?
I think that, and I don't know, if this is just speculation, but I know that when a HOA, when the developer hands over the HOA to the community, the HOA community inherits all of the deficiencies that the developer created. And I don't know if they're worried about that. I'm not, you know, I just want to get this approved and be able to either build a house there or sell the property to somebody else. I want to be respectful to the other neighbors. I want it part of Stonegate. I know that there are already some setbacks that are required in the property, since that's a big topic lately today. I know there are some setbacks. I'm willing to, accommodate those setbacks and make sure that they're respectful to the other owners on the property, so, or the other owners of the next to me.
Commissioners? This is a strange one.
Yeah.
It has an R1 zoning, and unless legal's going to correct me, they have a right to build a house there, but for road frontage. He's not corrected me, so I'm going to assume that stands, so.
Yeah, I bought this property during the Homerama, when the Homerama was in Stonegate, and there was a big sign. I was looking at another parcel in Stonegate, and it was a postage stamp, right? And there was a big sign that says, Stonegate, a part of Stonegate, 1 acre, and Larry walked the property with me. So.
Sure,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that,
Yeah.
and we may have more questions for you, but right now,
Sure.
we're addressing each other. So to me, the only thing in front of us is, as complicated as some things on this are, we've heard legal say that whether or not there's clear establishment of their right to this shared access, we're supposed to decide on if if the three factors are met to allow them the variance on the road frontage.
I would say yes.
Well, but any further conversation to, usually when I get variances in front of me, the one that is hard to get over is the hardship one. You can't build anything on this. You can't use the R1 residential without a variance on the 45-foot setback. I understand why the neighbors are concerned about the shared use and, in their view, the expansion of the use of this easement they share. I don't know that that's our thing.
Because it has a Stonegate address, and it was sold to be part of Stonegate, I don't know what else, what would be the options for this piece of land? What else could you do with it?
Which is why I would argue it meets the hardship exception.
If it was ag zone ground, I could say, hey, you could farm it. It's not even zoned ag, it's zoned R1. As much as I would say I don't like it, but it seems like we've had several type of issues like this in the Stonegate development. It seems to be another one that, like Eric said, it sounds like it was a deal done that just didn't get recorded properly somewhere along the way. But someone who buys a lot has the right to have access to their lot, particularly if there's already an access and utility easement already for that lot. I don't like it, but it fulfills the three requirements of our standards. I think staff did a wonderful job of preparing, and I agree with all three of their analysis on this. I don't like it, but I agree with it.
No further discussion, I would certainly entertain a motion.
After saying that, I'll move that docket 2026-06-DSV Development Standards variance to reduce the 45-foot road frontage requirement to 20 feet in the area of Block A depicted on the recorded plat for the Stonegate subdivision for construction of a single-family residence at 6724 West Stonegate Drive be conditionally approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report, staff recommendations, submitted findings of facts, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and the following condition of approval. As part of the submittal for an improved location permit, the petitioner shall provide documentation showing clear approval from the owners of the easement to utilize Block A as access point for the parcel.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. I think we'll do a roll call vote on this one, Mr. Dale, if you don't mind.
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Katie Glenn.
Aye.
4 approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We are on to other matters to be considered. A discussion on unnecessary hardship and practical difficulty. I raised this at our last BZA meeting. I'd love that you guys are catching up. We'll let you get out of the room. Thank you. I raised this at the last BZA meeting because in my opinion, at times, we get boxed in on things that are probably good for the community, but don't meet the technical definition of hardship. This came up before I was on BZA. Plan Commission forwarded it to Town Council without talking to anyone on BZA, which was a faux pas. And BZA raised their hand and said, we're not sure that we think this is necessary. So Town Council reasonably declined to move forward with it. Now, having lived with this hardship for a year and a half or so that I've been on the BZA, I would ask that we reconsider this again. And if we have, I will say, philosophical agreement that it's something that the Plan Commission should consider again forwarding to Town Council, that they would at least know that they had the support or not of the BZA. And so in a moment, I'll invite Mike or Jonathan, whoever might be taking us through the document to go through it, but I would be hesitant to try to reach any resolution tonight, especially missing our chair.
Just a little background, it was about a year and a half ago when the Plan Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, to the Town Council to replace unnecessary hardship, which is the current standard, with practical difficulty with regard to development standards variances. In addition to that, replacing unnecessary hardship with practical difficulty, the proposed ordinance also added definitions for practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship. A few months later, the Town Council voted to reject that ordinance amendment, stating that the ordinance was overly broad when considering both the rural and urban zoning districts. So I think that's a help for us. If we want to, revisit this topic, the Town Council seemed to sense that there ought to be a distinction perhaps between the rural and urban areas. Or in other words, maybe unnecessary hardship would apply to the urban areas and practical difficulty to the rural, just as an example. I'm not sure if that's where you want to go with this. And then, so the council rejected it, and the Plan Commission took no further action. So the council's decision, stayed with that decision. So that's where we are. I think that you may have, I'm not sure, Jonathan, if we handed out, definitions for practical difficulty and hardship, or if you want to put that on the screen, that might be helpful too, depending on how you want to carry this conversation.
IT will switch to my computer. We can put it on the screen. Thank you.
Let Jonathan go here and then.
If you can zoom in on that, Jonathan, make it larger for us. There you go. That's much better. There you go. Yeah. Understanding too that, depending on what the conversation this evening, you may want to direct staff to do some research, whatever you need to move this forward if you decide to move forward on this topic.
So been involved with this since it first came, and then we decided we got a little wishy-washy on it. And I'd said at the time at Planning Commission, after we were rejected by town council, not to pursue any further. At that time, I said, let's give it a year. Let me get some time under my, I was fairly new to the BZA as well as Jim. Jim came on not too far after I did. We've both sat on this thing now for over a year, seen some stuff come in front of us. Unnecessary hardship was the default that I felt like we need to be at that time. However, going throughout the year, I definitely think that practical difficulty needs to be applied in certain areas of our community, and that's something I'd like for staff to kind of delve a little bit further into, as well as, you know, a special exemption may be something we would want to keep unnecessary hardship levels on, where we would not want it for a development standard variance. We may want to keep practical difficult. So maybe if you guys can do a little homework on that end and kind of give us some guidance on how to go that direction with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. But I definitely think we need to revisit this subject after going through what I have in the last year and saying no to some people who I really wish I could have said yes to. But our standards are pretty clear.
Also, I should mention that, I think the statute, or at least most communities, use the practical difficulty finding. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Zionsville chose the higher, more rigorous standard of unnecessary hardship.
Yeah, local jurisdictions have the authority to be more restrictive. In adopting unnecessary hardship is a use variance standard. It's easy to understand. The property can't that's where somebody comes in and wants to put have a business use in a residentially zoned area. You can wrap your head around in the use context. It's all of the case law in Indiana is interpreting what unnecessary hardship means, and when cases get appealed to court, then it goes up to the Court of Appeals after a Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. Those are all in the context of use variances, not development standard variances. So it makes it difficult. Ultimately, the Board of Zoning Appeals is quasi-judicial, and you call it, as long as you make the findings appropriately, you call whether it's a ball or a strike. So you can get there through unnecessary hardship. It's difficult. And really, in explaining the differences between unnecessary hardship and practical difficulties, it's a matter of degree, but it's in the time that we've been helping and representing this board and the planning department, it's not unusual in most jurisdictions. It's even a good practice to annually review the types of cases that are coming through and what are the issues that are hanging up the board, and then doing exactly what you're doing and revisiting. I mean, judges have judicial conferences and bodies where judges are charged by the Indiana legislature with statutes sometimes without guidelines or explanatory, other than judges' discussions in other cases. And, they can make recommendations to the legislature for, requested changes to make their jobs easier. So it's in my mind, and this is just my personal opinion, the use variance definition that are well stated in the staff reports and that come up, at that standard, I don't know how a development standard can ever be granted, because it's they want to change a setback for a patio. Well, the house can obviously still be used for residential purposes because it's for a house. There's a house there. It's just those. So but that's a legislative decision. The town council, under its authority, so what Mr. Fodor mentioned, it might make sense to under its legislative authority, the town council could approve a different standard depending on, for development standard variances in different parts of the town. And that would probably you still have, there are good examples. I mean, one way I think of practical difficulties in the jurisdictions that we represent on development standards is it's almost more of a, there's still a healthy dose of was it self-created? And is it purely economic? But it's practical difficulties is more of a reasonableness standard. And really in the cases that I've sat in on where you've granted that and gotten there through the stricter unnecessary hardship, the board discussion and the findings are the peculiarities to the topography or the presence of utility easements that prevent the development and the use of the property. But yeah, I've come to meetings and I'll go back and joke with Dan. I'm like, unnecessary hardship is really tough for development standards, and it makes it really hard for you guys as the judges.
When I said let's revisit, I didn't realize I was making it a lot harder on myself.
Well,
last year, but
to the point that I think was made, you can navigate, if you really want to, you can find a way to navigate around unnecessary hardship, but you have to really want to. And I'm missing a big data point, and I don't want to speak for staff, and I certainly don't, I'm not ceding the responsibility for me to understand what's in front of me or my authority, but the unnecessary hardship standard, I think at times, and maybe oftentimes, has town staff recommending that we disallow something that they were really kind of okay with, but they weren't willing to do the hoop jump and the stretches necessary to make the unnecessary hardship argument. And so I don't know that we always get a clear view from staff as to whether or not they think this is appropriate for the community and fair to the neighbors and the landowner on the unnecessary hardship standard. And so I'm missing a data point.
But it is also the petitioner's responsibility to prove their hardship to us. Staff has given us their recommendations, but I also don't think it needs to go to the level where someone needs to hire counsel to try to prove to us something. So like I said, I think it's something we do need to revisit. I look forward to seeing what staff comes up with for us. And then I would assume the next step in this, is this something that the planning commission does? Or is this something we recommend to town? I can't remember the steps in the process. Are we going to recommend a change to the planning commission then recommends it to town council? Is that how this works?
I think it'd be helpful to have a proposal.
Or is it
from
our end?
Yes.
Okay.
To the plan commission, for them to
Because
weigh.
technically, it's planning commission that would be making the changes
Yes.
for us and then referring it on to town council.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
If you could kind of reiterate what you would like staff to deliver to you.
something that breaks down where staff feels that we would want to put I don't want to put staff in that position too much, but some sort of breakdown between rural and urban with practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship in all of our case types where we are currently using unnecessary hardship. So, for example, I think we had, it's part of a special exemption, it's part of a development standard variance, but I guess, well, realistically, I just need to go home and do my homework and think through this, to be, but some sort of guidance on, here's how this would apply in a rural setting, here's how it would apply in a urban setting. Or am I asking just kind of my brain's thinking and I need to, like I said, go home and think through this?
Development standard variances, those really feel like practical difficulty.
Yes, they do, yes.
Now, I'll just get to examples. Lot coverage. Where
In
do
the
you think
urban
lot
area,
coverage?
yeah. Yeah, in the
should
urban,
land?
off the cuff, I'd say urban, we'd want to stay unnecessary hardship.
Well, can you
But-
imagine a lot coverage issue in rural? That you wouldn't want hardship to be it?
You're right.
I guess let me ask this question of legal.
Yeah,
If-
like I said, I gotta think.
No, it's.
If we lower it to practical difficulty for development standard variances,
And I'm going to argue with the lower.
or, yeah, if we change
conversation.
it, yeah.
If we allow a little more discretion
There-
in how
that-
we reach our decisions.
That's where I'm trying to get to. So
Yeah.
with practical difficulty, a petition could meet all criteria, but the BZA still has the discretion to deny.
Correct.
All right, and so in that context, this is my opinion, in that context, that discretion gives you the ability to look at everything on a case-by-case basis. We don't necessarily need to change it urban versus rural. What we need to do is change it based off the category. Development standard variances across the board should be practical difficulty, which gives y'all, affords y'all the right to have discretion on a case-by-case-by-case-by-case basis. Some will be urban, some will be rural, but y'all have that discretion. Y'all retain that discretion.
And I appreciate you making that point. We're not actually giving away the ability to say, meets all three standards, think it's wrong for Zionsville. No.
I don't think we need to have the conversation or dive that deep into urban versus rural, and this one has this standard, and that one has that. I think
only
they'll
reason-
just set the standard. It's
The
practical
only reason I
difficulty.
bring that up is because town council kicked it back
Yeah.
to us with that
Yeah.
caveat, I guess.
I was not at the town council meeting. I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
know the
remember.
discussion that occurred, but that would be my argument is, you know, the BZA members are the ones that are, you know, making the decisions. They're the ones that are in the weeds of this thing. What y'all need is discretion, and y'all need flexibility to look at each case on a case-by-case basis and make the decision that y'all feel is right in that moment for that petition. That's often going to be urban, that's often going to be rural, but we shouldn't break it down that way. We should just allow y'all to have that discretion. Make it practical difficulty for development standard variances only, and that gives you the discretion every petition, understanding that if you don't like it, you can still deny it.
And does the amount of discretion change whether the BZA is using unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty?
No, it is still the collective decision of the board, as long as they make the findings appropriately, and that there's evidence in the record to support the judgment.
Because it sounded like we were saying that under the practical difficulty standard, the project may actually meet those criteria, but the BZA can still vote no. Is that it? Is that incorrect?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But-
Yeah, development standard variances are, under practical difficulties, are denied all the time.
Okay, but not so as under unnecessary hardship.
No, it's still, I mean, and I'm, just to explain, the way we look at, our job is to protect the board from appeals to courts. So that's why I keep saying, as long as you deliberate properly and make your findings and that the decision is made appropriately, that's the best way to prevent yourself from being overturned if a decision from here gets appealed to circuit court.
So the decision of the BZA should be supported by the findings,
Yes,
and whether it's practical difficulty or unnecessary.
it's the same thing, right?
Okay.
But,
It's easier to meet
It's-
the
but-
findings for practical.
right, but yes, yeah. Practical difficulties is that goes back to my original point. It's development standards are different than use. So it's and by statute, it's practical difficulties for development standards. It's not unnecessary hardship.
Just to clarify, changing the standard, practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship, one or the other doesn't take away or add to the discretion that they have on a case-by-case basis. You still have the same level of discretion. What it does change is the, I'm going to use the word easiness, the ease in which a petitioner can meet the standard, right? So right now, it's very challenging for a petitioner to meet the unnecessary hardship standard. But if they, by some miracle, do meet that standard, y'all still have the discretion to deny. With practical difficulty, it's easier to meet that standard, right, for the petitioner, which gives y'all the ability to approve something if y'all so choose to do so. Whereas historically, it was very challenging to reach the unnecessary hardship standard. So if y'all wanted to approve something, y'all couldn't because they couldn't get there anyway. Does that make sense? It's easier for the petitioner to get to the standard, and then once they're at the standard, then it's up to y'all to approve or deny it. Y'all aren't giving or taking away any more levels of discretion. It's just easier for y'all to be able to approve something if you choose to do so, because the petitioner can get to the standard easier.
Well, I agree with what you're saying conceptually. I think legal counsel, Mr. Dale's point is, if we want to not get overturned in court, we still need to fail something on one of the factors.
Oh, yeah.
Before we pass it.
Or approve it on the factor.
So, well, earlier I had said I could not meet all three factors, just think it's wrong for Zionsville, and off I go. That would be a bad idea, so I won't do that. Not until it's my last meeting.
I got a question on the
Parting shot.
on the process we go through with this. Now, like I said, we're going to recommend this to planning commission. Will there be public comment at the planning commission level? So if there's people from the community who have concerns.
This will be an advertised hearing item.
Okay.
Yep.
Public hearing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we do allow the public a chance to provide some input on this.
Do you want us to visit use variances and as well as DSVs, or if it's focus on DSVs?
Let's focus on DSVs right now. I think we got our hands
Let's eat
full
the
with
elephant.
that. Yeah, let's get the elephant in the room
One bite at a
first.
time. Let's see if we can build the trust with that folks will give us that additional flexibility in our discretion. And then we'll see if that solves our concerns. And I say this like we've already decided to make this ask of the Plan Commission. I don't mean to present it that way because I want everyone to have a chance to sit with it, and Amanda hasn't had a chance to weigh in.
We have a research assignment.
Yes, thank you. It looks like there's one more findings of fact for docket 2026-03 DSV. Is that just something you need us to sign, or?
Yeah, so this was approved last meeting, and so a question for legal. The findings, the petition overall was approved. Everything's okay. For whatever reason, the findings that we signed disappeared, never made their way back to my desk. So this is now just to correct that error. Do I mark it as the date it was approved, or as today they're signing it?
Either way's fine. I would recommend marking it today's date. That the board, as long as it happens in an open meeting, they can approve findings at a subsequent hearing.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark it as today's date, but we all understand this was approved last month, and the paperwork disappeared. Okay?
Was it approved unanimously? Because I wasn't here, so I don't know if I need to sign that.
I believe it was, but just to be cautious, I only need 3 to sign it. So Josh, Katie, and Jim, we all sign this?
I remembered enough that I know I was supportive of it, so I'm happy
This
to
was the
sign it.
replacement of the two-story garage?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was unanimous.
I think it was unanimous too, but we don't need to put Josh Martin in that position. The 3 of us can sign it.
Signing findings he was here for, yeah, it's bad move.
I already tried to make him counsel for tonight's meeting. So,
$40 a month just doesn't cover that, does it?
Not that you're easily replaced.
Well, on that note, I sincerely apologize. I had a scheduling area. I was a scheduling error, and I was at the Crawfordsville Western Boone baseball game at Western Boone High School, which is why I'm not in my regular attire, but I sincerely apologize for being late. And
You sounded out of breath when you walked. You looked a little out of breath walking in the door.
I didn't get a speeding ticket driving, so that was fortunate.
Did you have to leave the game early?
But, oh, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Do you coach?
No, I was just watching.
Oh, I guess I'm supposed to motion to adjourn. Or
So
look for-
moved.
So moved, second. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.